And that's the short, and boy, that ending though. Even watching this for the first time, I was shocked by how it ended. But you know, sometimes Disney ain't all the good sunshine and rainbows because they gotta smack you in the face with sad reality. And probably some shock too. So anyways, let's talk a little bit more about this piece of work. As I said, Chicken Little was another animated short in the lineup of propaganda films during World War II. And there are subtle references related to the war, even if you may not get it the first viewing. One reference would be the book that Foxy Loxy was quoting from throughout the short. The title of the book was originally going to be Mein Kampf, which was an autobiographical manifesto for Adolf Hitler. While the book was changed into just psychology, the quotes that Loxy read were still from the manifesto. Another reference was the shot of the mass graves of all the birds after being eaten by Foxy Loxy. Originally, the wishbones were going to be marked with swastikas, and Foxy Loxy's last night was presumably via Mein Kampf. But Walt Disney decided to make these changes to prevent the short from being dated after the war, so the references wouldn't be too detectable, I guess you could say. Even the first time I watched it, I didn't even get the World War II references until I did more research on Chicken Little. And I'll give them this, it was a good call that they made these changes. Comparing to the other explicitly detailed propaganda shorts, this one is much more tamed. That is, if you don't take in the references. With that said, I also want to discuss a little more on the ending of the short. Well, the ending of the tale in general. So at the end of Chicken Little, or Henny Penny, or Chicken Lickin', whatever the fuck we call it, the endings in every version are the same. Foxy Loxy manipulates the chickens into his traps and eats them, and some of the motivations of their fates are different as well. In the 1842 and 1849 publications, the premise is still the same, except that the solution is the chickens heading out to inform their king about the sky falling, and the fox, as well as his younglings, taking them to their hole and eating them right up. I don't think they explain who the king was specifically, nor did I know the fox actually had children, but I guess they exist in those stories. Sad that the chickens never got to tell the king because, well, you know, they got eaten. However, it was the 1840 version written by John Green Chandler called The Remarkable Story of Chicken Little, and the ending was seriously fucked up the way it was described. Basically, Foxy lures the birds into his den and one by one he just bites or cuts their heads off and eats them afterwards. Then leaving Chicken Little last and eating her whole. By the way, Chicken Little was a female in this version. So it was pretty surprising that Disney created a short based off a very dark tale of Chicken Little, and especially replicating the ending of Foxy Loxy eating the entire bird coop. I mean, thank God they didn't do the 1840 version, but it was still pretty dark nonetheless. And lastly, I want to talk about the lesson of this short, which targets the dangers of mass hysteria and spreading lies. Which in the film is shown as Chicken Little believes that a piece of sky is falling and spreading that fear from Foxy Loxy's whispered hearsay and fabrications towards the community. And that fear, as well as all the false rumors about Cocky Lucky's leadership, led the birds to their brutal fates. This short represented the idea of the folktale as an allegory that fear-mongering deteriorates the war effort and costs human lives, especially during the terrible time of World War II. And what makes this most interesting is how oppositely it applies to the literature and art of the time, a time of confusion, hysteria, and fear. Just for the record, I really don't like to talk about politics, even as some of the current events really piss me off. But this short, in my opinion, is also relevant to what is happening in our current climate, not just in the United States, but around the world. Many leaders and political figures, past and present, can have very evil agendas and people follow them not knowing the real consequences that can be avoided. I'm not saying all of them are evil, for the most part, but it's good to focus on yourself and not turn blindly onto one person's perspective. It's best to take a step back, open your eyes to the world around you, use common sense, and think and decide for yourself. It's good to be doubtful, be cautious, and only follow your own agenda, not someone else's. I mean, it is up to you on what choices you make and how it can impact you and those close to you. And trust me, especially in the current times of fear, confusion, and spread of misinformation, that's saying a hell of a lot. So with all that said, does the Chicken Little short still hold up? With and without context, absolutely. With context, well, it's for historical purposes with subtle World War II references. Without context, I think it's still a very important moral to teach your kids and even older audiences. Although I do recommend for parents to be with their kids when watching the short because, the ending of course, but in this day and age, does anybody even care? Probably. But yeah, I like this short, and I do like the background history of how this short came to be, which again surprised me that it was part of Disney's lineup of World War II propaganda shorts. But hey, the more you learn. And I know somebody's gonna ask me this, but the less we talk about the 2005 film, the better. Hey, honey!
Yes, dear?
We're having cooked butt cluck for dinner tonight! Bring out the Chick-fil-A sauce!